3.
Hi, my name's Glenn Martin. I live at 147th Street East in Country Creek. I've been a resident about 10 years. I'm running for the board, and I'm hoping you'll watch this video and look at some of the documents that I have. And I'm running for the board because I don't think they're doing a good job. And before you jump to conclusions and make a judgment, I'd ask that you listen to the rest of the video, look at the documents that I have, and I'm pretty sure you'll come to some of the conclusions that I'm coming to. My interactions and relationship with the board began in 2010 when I received a complaint about a commercial van that had lettering in my driveway. I got the letter. The van was in the driveway. It wouldn't fit in my garage because of my water heater. I ended up moving the heater, getting the van in, having a couple inches to spare, and I got the door closed. About 6 months later, I put my vehicle in a commercial area where I pay rent, and I don't have commercial vehicles here anymore. To this day, if you go around the neighborhood, there's still a lot of commercial vehicles around. You'll see them all over the place. They're scattered. I don't think that's how the board should operate, and I don't think that rule for commercial vehicles should be selectively enforced. I get a letter and I could see other commercial vehicles in the neighborhood. To me, it just doesn't sit well. The other thing that happened was during the last election cycle, I noticed campaign signs popping up on the street. I put a complaint in, it got ignored. I put a second complaint in, it got ignored. I finally put a third complaint in and I got a response. The response I got was quite shocking. And I'll just show you that. Here's some of the response in red from a board member named Ray. Basically, I'm called an asshole and a troublemaker. And I'm also told that there is a documented decision on what's enforced and what's not enforced. And what's in red is coming from the board. So, when I ask for the list of what's enforced and what's not enforced, I get silence. I get no response. I don't think that's how the board should operate. We have rules and they should be enforced. That's where my interest in the board really began to accelerate. I wanted to find out what they're doing and see what they're doing. That's when I began to ask questions. I asked questions, where's the list of things that are not enforced? I get no response. I asked to see other complaints about things that are coming in from the neighborhood, and I get no response. I don't think that's how the board should operate. In 2012, when they ran a reclaim water down 147th Street to connect to Country Meadows and allow people that are on our street to hook to reclaim water, I found out that there was a pump in the lake behind my neighbor's house. Of all the rules that they have, pumps in the lake are strictly prohibited. It's one of the only things that's strictly prohibited. So while I'm fighting this for 4 years, they won't respond. They ignore my requests. There's another resident in the neighborhood who puts a request in asking if they could put a pump in the lake. Her name was Meg. She gets a letter. They say absolutely not. It's strictly prohibited. So they're not following up on my complaint, yet they're telling other residents who just moved into the neighborhood that it's absolutely prohibited and don't do it. I don't think that's how the board should be operating. That's not fair, and it's just not right. Over the last few months, I questioned the board members about the election process. What I'm told is the way to get on the board is to volunteer and show up and do stuff. I volunteer, they don't call me. And that's not how you get on the board. The board has been formed through an improper process over the last 10 years by a small group of people in the neighborhood that collect proxies. This is the first time we're having elections that are consistent with the covenants. That's why there was not one, but 2 attorneys at the last meeting. So our association just paid 2 legal bills for 2 attorneys to explain to the board that they're not operating consistent with the covenants. If you watch the video from the last meeting, I still have board members wanting to argue that they're in compliance when they're not. That's not how the board should operate. I say the board's doing a horrible job. The covenants and the rules are not enforced fairly or consistently, and I'll give you the example about my vehicle, the pump in the lake, and all of these other things that are occurring. Since they won't give me any records, I can't see who else is being treated unfairly, and I can't even see what complaints are coming in that may be similar, that are being ignored or enforced because they won't provide any records. One of the issues that comes up is people don't participate. Well, no one comes to the meetings because it's posted at the last time. I've raised issues about communicating through the web and Facebook and doing other things. We're in an electronic age. We should be able to communicate very quickly and effectively with everyone in the neighborhood. But we don't seem to be doing that. And when we have board meetings, if you're not on the board, your participation minutes are limited. And often, if you ask questions, you get a hostile response from the board, or you get no response at all. And if you don't believe me, watch the videos. Come to the meeting, because a lot of people are not coming and they're not seeing it. That's why we're doing this. That's why we're videotaping the meetings. That's why we're videotaping our candidacy positions, so people can see, because they hear things from neighbors, but they don't see any documents, and they've never spoken to some of the people that are experiencing these things that are not fair. Information requests to review documents are completely ignored. If you watch the last two videos, they don't want to produce documents that involve the competitive bidding process, the landscape contract that happens to be held by the president of the association, which appears to be a conflict of interest. They don't want to provide the scope of the work. Behind me, I have a lake behind me with no houses. I've got to trim one whole side, which is a good 200 feet plus, and look how good one side looks, and look how horrible the other side looks. I don't think people living on lakes should have to do it, and I don't think that I should have to cut the grass here, but we can't even find what's included in the contract for landscaping because we're told to go to the county to get a map when we should be able to see a scope of work on the contract. So I don't see how a responsible board member can take a position that not taking competitive bids and awarding those bids to other board members is not a conflict of interest, and I don't see how that's even a best business principle to follow. I'm in business. You get competitive bids. People do it all the time. You change an air conditioner. I've seen people on Facebook. They're getting quotes, 3 quotes on an air conditioner to change, which costs $5,000, but the association, according to what they spend, somewhere around $25,000 a year, we're not getting competitive bids for that. I think that is financial malfeasance, and I don't see how anyone can make an argument that they're doing their job spending our money correctly when there's no competitive bidding process, no scope of work, and the bid is awarded to a fellow board member. It doesn't look good, and that's not how the board should operate. Other questions, I've met people in the neighborhood, and you're going to see some other videos. There's questions about variances that have been granted. Variances that have been granted to board members. Some of these regard fences. I don't know what other variances have been granted because they won't let me see the documents that I have a right to see. I don't see how that's fair. I'm going to take you back to the pond real quick with the lake with the pump. Here's a letter from Ray documenting in an email what occurred about this lake and my pump, and how the person admitted it, kept it, and the pump was in there for a couple years while everyone else is paying a high water bill to irrigate their lawn. You have someone in the neighborhood who, with the consent of the board, is allowed to keep a pump in the lake. I don't think that's how the board should operate. All they end up sending is a letter that there's a bucket in the lake. That's not what occurred, but that's what they have their written record for, and I've got to beg and beg and beg to see these documents. That's not how the board should be operating. So in my opinion, they're not doing a good job. They're doing a horrible job. And if you think they're doing a good job, you don't understand exactly what's happening here. And I don't think that we should be denied records and treated this way and I'm not the only one. And let me tell you something else. I don't want to be on the board. I don't want to run for the board. They've got me so irritated that I am going to run so I can make a change. The other alternative is taking a legal position and having a lawsuit, which is going to end up costing all of us money. And I think if the board continues to operate the way they're doing, somebody else in this neighborhood is going to sue the board, and all of our dues are going to skyrocket. So take a look at what I have to say. Facebook me, you'll see these videos. I'll ask you for your vote. My intention and my objectives are transparency, open records, following the rules, competitive bidding on all the money that we spend and all the contracts that we have, and updating the webpage so people are not in the dark. And in this day and age, there's no reason why we can't communicate effectively through the web, through email, and other electronic means, and also have those documents electronically available. But the board's going to tell you that they can't do it, and they don't want to do it because they don't want you seeing what's going on. So hopefully we see you at the election. If you don't vote for me, vote for somebody else that's going to do the right thing, and hopefully you'll vote for me. Happy New Year. Have a great day.
Thank you, Glenn.